How is it going, everyone? Got quite a lot to talk about in this video. A big Digimon Story Time Stranger update as the first piece of DLC has been dated, and it is going to be out in 3 days. Yes, it will be launching this coming Monday, December the 8th. Digimon Story Time Stranger DLC, additional Digimon in Episode Pack 1. Alternate Dimension will be dropping on December the 8th. I think the DLC, based on the brief trailer that they dropped, looks pretty good, and it looks like it is going to have a story emphasis. I know that it was called Story DLC and additional Digimon and episode pack, so the idea was that this was gonna be a relatively notable piece of DLC, but you can never be certain about what is gonna be included in this type of content. They promoted a certain way, obviously, to get you to buy the Ultimate Edition and whatnot, but we'll talk about that. Also, I want to give an update on one of the zaniest, over-the-top games that's coming out in 2026. That is Romeo is a Dead Man. We have an official release date on that, and a brand new Monster Hunter showcase has been dated as well. We'll talk that at the end of this video, but primarily do want to talk all about Digimon Story Time Stranger. The DLC additional Digimon and episode pack 1 alternate dimension will be launching on December the 8th. So very quick turnaround for the first piece of DLC, and I am not a big fan of paid DLC coming out just 2 months after the game originally drops, but that's just how the landscape is these days. Can you make the argument, hey, should this content have been in the game from the get-go? Again, that is something that we just have to kind of accept it with the lay of the land in the gaming industry. They do show Kyoko in the trailer, so if you play Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, that'll be pretty cool, and utilizing stuff like that as a bit of a drawing card for DLC, I think makes a ton of sense. It will be interesting, the length of this DLC and how much content it is going to offer, because I know a ton of people bought the Ultimate Edition, paid, what was it? Not the Ultimate Edition, but a lot of people bought the Deluxe Edition for $100, and then the Ultimate Edition was $130, and this is going to be the first of 3 separate episode packs, and I just want quality DLC because I've mentioned it before, but Bandai Namco did such a phenomenal job, and the developers of this game more so did such a great job of building so much goodwill with Digimon Story Time Stranger, and I think timing worked out where Pokemon ZA, I know a lot of people did like it, however, there were certain optics with that game online, especially where people were disappointed by various aspects of the game, and Digimon was the beneficiary of that and really did develop a lot of goodwill. Not saying that Digimon's bigger than Pokemon or anything like that, but there's a lot of goodwill is all I'm saying that was built with Digimon Story Time Stranger, and you want to do quality DLC packs. Now, it's obvious to anyone, these DLC packs were kind of created, and we already had the idea, they already had the idea, I should say, of what this DLC was going to entail before this game came out. I mean, the DLC's coming out 2 months after the game drops. You think they just made this DLC in the span of 2 months? No, they had an idea of what this content was going to be, and the fundamentals were already in place. I'm very confident in saying that, so it's not like they can course correct and be like, hey, this game's got a lot of goodwill, or it's big, let's make the DLC a little bit better or a little bit bigger. They really can't do that in that short of a window, so I hope that from the get-go they had the idea that, hey, people are paying a premium for this, let's do high quality DLC, because there have been a lot of times where DLC comes out, or DLC gets announced for these games, especially when it's DLC that gets announced before a game is even coming out, and they're kind of committed to it, that the DLC ends up being really, really mediocre. Just look at Assassin's Creed Shadows DLC that recently just dropped. Doesn't have the best reception in the world. Hopefully this is a bit better received, and you want to keep that goodwill rolling. So we'll see how all of that turns out. The DLC will be dropping on December the 8th. And I'm sure there's going to be more powerful Digimon to encounter in the trailer showcases. Some of that looks quite good in that regard as well. So we'll see how all of that turns out December 8th for the release on that. Alright, moving on from that, a game that I am incredibly excited for has just gotten dated. Romeo is a Dead Man will be launching on February the 11th, and if you want to make February even more crazy for game releases, I guess let's do it. February the 11th, and the game will be priced at $49.99. Obviously, I absolutely love that. We saw Mafia the Old Country come out at $49.99, and I didn't know how that game did really from a commercial standpoint. You know, it didn't seem like there was a ton of buzz around it, but 2K Games themselves outright came out and said, hey, that game did better commercially than we had expected, and the next Mafia game is already greenlit. I think the $49.99 price tag really can draw a lot of people in. Now, Romeo is a Dead Man isn't going to be a game that's going to offer you 40, 50, 60 hours of gameplay. I highly doubt that. The Suda51 games, it's all about all killer, no filler. If you played games like Shadows of the Damned and whatnot, you know what their games are about in the sense of the essence of their games. They're a little bit off the wall. They're a little bit out there. However, we need more of that in gaming, in my opinion. So much in gaming, I do feel feels very samey. In the case of Romeo's a Dead Man, man, this is a game that stands out, and it describes itself as an ultra-violent science fiction action title, and I totally can think that if this game is a quality game, it's the type of game to me, based on looking at the gameplay, that it's gonna do really well on social media, in the sense that it's a flashy game where it's easy to share clips on these short form content platforms and, you know, platforms like X and whatnot. I think it could be one of those games that does very well from a word of mouth standpoint. We'll see how that ultimately turns out, and I just feel like a Suda51 game in the era that we're currently in gaming and how people talk about video games on social media, I just think it could do rather well. Now, it comes down to the game itself being good, so we'll see how that turns out, but I think it's shaping up quite nicely. The only thing that concerns me a little bit is that we have an absolutely stacked lineup of games in February and even going into January. February's got like 10 or 11 different games that I'm interested in. There's games like Resident Evil Requiem, Neo 3, My Hero Academia's game is coming out. I know that's not big for everyone, but it's somewhat big for me. Reanimal is coming out. Tales of Berseria Remastered, East 10 Proud Nordics. That's just off the top of my head. There's a ton of stuff coming out in February that I'm excited for, but Romeo's a Dead Man to me is a game that really stands out, and I think a lot of people are going to be interested in checking it out. Now, it is going to be self-published by Grasshopper. To me, that means there's not going to be a physical copy right away. It might be a case like Black Myth Wukong, where a physical distributor like a PM Studios comes into the picture and then they ultimately publish a physical copy, but based on the fact that it's going to be self-published, I would imagine that it's going to be digital only, but we'll see. We'll see how all of that turns out. The game is coming out on February 11th, so if there was going to be a physical copy, I feel like pre-orders would already be out, but that is not the case. The game itself, again, $49.99 on that. Lastly, I do want to know, Monster Hunter Showcase is set for December the 8th. Updates on Monster Hunter Stories 3, Twisted Reflection, and Monster Hunter Wilds will be dropping. I know Monster Hunter Wilds has had a pretty mixed reception thus far, but Monster Hunter Stories 3 looks awesome. That game is coming out on March 13th, and man, that 3-month period of 2026, so many games I'm excited for. You got Romeo's a Dead Man, Legend of Heroes, Monster Hunter Stories 3, Resident Evil, Crimson Desert, Soros, Soros is coming out in March as well. Brothers, get those wallets ready. If you're picking up games on day one, get those wallets ready because they are about to be eviscerated. That's all I'm saying. But I think Monster Hunter Stories 3 looks great. Monster Hunter Wilds is obviously going to continue to get better and better with more updates and free content updates. I still enjoyed the game, but you know, I'm not looking for that level of immense replayability at a Monster Hunter that I think a lot of other people are looking at, and that's really the element of the game that I think has disappointed a lot of people. Also, the performance is absolutely rancid, but what can you do about that? Capcom's just gonna do what Capcom's gonna do. But that'll do it for me. Again, Digimon Story Time Stranger will be getting its first piece of DLC December the 8th on that. Very much looking forward to that. Romeo is a Dead Man. Have that game on your radar. That game looks awesome. February the 11th for that, and I'll be talking up that game leading into its release. Monster Hunter Showcase is set for December the 8th. Updates on Monster Hunter Stories 3 and Monster Hunter Wilds. That's gonna do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.